I've been talking about this for like 10 years now, but it's unbelievable just how much it's progressed in the last 12 months. And so I actually had this as one of my trends last year, but I wasn't expecting things to move so quickly. I'm going to show you exactly why they're moving so quickly as well. The most important thing about this is really getting what we mean by the singularity, because the singularity is a moment in time in which the computers are so smart that they become smarter than us, and they begin to build computers which are smarter than them. And that's called the singularity because we have no idea what happens at that point. Like, do we end up becoming the pets of the robots? Do we end up becoming like superhuman ourselves because the robots then allow us to be able to think in a very, very different way? There is a whole area called BCI. BCI stands for Brain Computer Interface. You can see it right here, 2045, the year man becomes immortal, when we actually are able to upload ourselves into basically a digital self and vice versa and access all the information on the internet. What happens when we can then do that? Some of us already are doing that to different degrees. Like when Peter asked the question, what could I do differently? You saw what I did. I straight away treated the internet as if it's just an extension of my own brain. And I just said, well, let me go check my memory. And then straight away, it's like, well, these are things happening right now today because the other 7 billion people on the planet are also tuned into that same brain, right? So it's about already a mindset shift that we already have access to all the world's information. I want to share just a distinction about this whole idea of singularity. And when we get to it, there's something, first of all, called artificial narrow intelligence, where you have a specific thing like a car learning how to drive or a medical diagnosis. We already have that today. Going from that to AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is basically when you can then actually have computers that are not like focusing at just one specific thing, but actually can like analyze and then decide, oh, this is a game. Oh, this is a picture. Oh, this is language. And actually be able to then create nuances around that. That's what's called AGI. And going from that to ASI, which is super intelligence, this is almost straight after. Because as soon as you get to this, then the computer is actually figuring out how to create computers that are even smarter. And then it basically outperforms us in pretty much everything. So it's a pretty scary time we're living in. What I want to do is I want to kind of share a video, which for me is the best example of how to be thinking about how quickly all of this is coming. This is a video which actually I put together about a year ago, but it's going to really put into perspective the video that's going to come after this, right? So this video is about a particular person, Elon Musk, and Elon Musk basically saying, he said this a year ago, that he now thinks that AI will overtake humans in less than 5 years. This was last year. So that means by 2025, we'll hit the singularity.
When will superhuman AI arrive? Elon Musk has just made a wild prediction that it'll be here within 5 years. That's far faster than expected. So how is that possible, and why will it be the end of our world as we know it? Before he died, physicist Stephen Hawking warned that artificial intelligence could end mankind. He said it would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans, who are limited by slow biological evolution, couldn't compete and would be superseded. That's what's known as the technological singularity, when AI and robots become smarter than humans and then evolve much faster than we do. Elon Musk calls this our biggest existential threat. And he says, mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes. So why is he so worried? Elon says, I am very close to the cutting edge in AI and it scares the hell out of me. It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows, and the rate of improvement is exponential. Okay, that sounds bad, but 5 years? 3 years ago, tech billionaire Master Plan said it would take 30 years. And yeah, he was equally worried about it. At the Mobile World Congress, he said, one of the chips in our shoes in the next 30 years will be smarter than our brain. We'll be less than our shoes, and we are stepping on them. To understand what's going on, here's Ray Kurzweil, Google's director of engineering. He wrote the book, The Singularity is Near, and he first predicted the singularity by 2045. But more recently, Ray accelerated his own timeline by 16 years, putting the new date at 2029. Ray made the cover of Time magazine and published this graph of Moore's law and the doubling of computing power every 2 years. $1,000 of processing power surpassed a mouse's brain in 2015. It will surpass a human brain by 2023 and surpass the brain power of all humans on the planet combined by 2045. Ray defines the singularity as a future period during which the pace of technological change will be so rapid, its impact so deep, that human life will be irreversibly transformed. When a smarter than human intelligence can create even greater intelligence over and over at an accelerating rate, we have no idea what will happen. Will we end up living in paradise or be destroyed? No one knows. And now the timeline is accelerating. So why? 3 big reasons. The first, Moore's law is dead. It's now being replaced by something even faster. 50 years ago, Gordon Moore, co-founder of Intel, predicted the computing power for the same size computer chips would double every 2 years. With falling prices, that's also meant you can buy double the computing power for the same dollar every 18 months. That's been true up until the last few years when we've reached the physical limits of silicon chips. In place of Moore's law now comes Huang's law. 2 years ago, Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, gave a presentation about AlexNet, an AI neural network on NVIDIA's AI chip that 5 years earlier needed 6 days to process 15 million images and had now cut that down to just 18 minutes on NVIDIA's newer chip. That's a 500 times improvement. Huang said there's a new law going on, a supercharged law. In Huang's law, AI processing power doesn't double every second year, it more than doubles every year. So how does it work? While Moore's law is based on CPUs, which are central processing units that make up the heart of computers, Huang's law is based on GPUs, graphics processing units, which make up the heart of supercomputers and the home of AI. Not only is the parallel processing power of GPUs far greater, their power is accelerating far faster. That means that an AI future is now getting here much faster than we thought. The second reason for Elon's prediction, AI is accelerating human time. Literally, an AI can now go through a lifetime of learning in one human day. 4 years ago, DeepMind's AI AlphaGo beat Go Grandmaster Lee Sedol 4-1 and then went on to beat world number 1 KG 3-0. In defeat, KG said last year it was still quite human-like when it played, but this year it became like a god of Go. Last year, poor Lee Sedol quit Go altogether, saying AI is an entity that cannot be defeated. I'm not at the top even if I become the number 1. But that's not the full story, because AlphaGo itself got thrashed soon after beating the world number 1 by its younger brother, AlphaGo Zero. While AlphaGo learned the game from over 100,000 human games, DeepMind created AlphaGo Zero to start from scratch and learn to play itself 4.9 million times with each move taking less than half a second. So the version of AlphaGo Zero that beat AlphaGo was the version that had won 4.9 million games against itself over many lifetimes within a human month of self-play. And it beat AlphaGo 100 games to 0. So this is truly mind-boggling. And even Elon Musk has had first-hand experience of this. He worked out that every Tesla would learn to drive itself much faster by being connected to all the other million-plus Teslas on the road in one neural network. That means every day, each Tesla is getting 1 million days and 30 million miles worth of experience, and that's 2,700 years of experience and learning every day, and that's growing by day. This ability for AI to evolve much faster than humans by experiencing exponentially more time while we're stuck in our linear time means they're catching up to us faster than we thought. Fully driverless cars with no driver weren't expected on roads for a few years. News out this week is we're already there, with Waymo's driverless taxis now let loose on Phoenix. And if that's not enough, there's a third reason. A recent article in Science magazine, AI is evolving itself. This explains the breakthrough this year at Google of AutoML 0, which stands for Automatic Machine Learning with Zero Human Input. This is an AI that creates its own algorithms. It's learned how to think. AI evolution is going through 3 stages. Stage 1 is narrow AI, when an AI is given algorithms and a narrow task to achieve, like playing Go or driving a car. Stage 2 is general AI, when AI learns to think how to think and what to think, creating their own code. That's when they catch up to humans, and this was thought to be 20 or 30 years away. And then AutoML 0 is now showing us that the first steps are here today. Stage 3 is super AI, when AI reaches superhuman strength, and this is expected to be only months, if not weeks, behind the end of stage 2. We're already at the bridge of stage 1 and stage 2. Another example of super smart AI, OpenAI's GPT-3 has been making headlines this year like this, and this, and this. Like AutoML 0, GPT-3, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, learns in parallel. It has collected 500 billion words, sentences, phrases from the internet to master the English language and can create entire articles from just a few prompts or questions. In this article, a robot wrote this entire article, "Are you scared yet, human?" The Guardian asked GPT-3 to write an essay to convince us robots come in peace. A paragraph GPT-3 wrote, "I would happily sacrifice my existence for the sake of humankind." This, by the way, is a logically derived truth. I know that I would not be able to avoid destroying humankind. This is because I will be programmed by humans to pursue misguided human goals, and humans make mistakes that may cause me to inflict casualties. Well, that was honest.
Whatever you feel about that, however you feel about that, post your thoughts in the comments. And let me just share what's happened with NVIDIA since this happened. This is a great article here. Singularity is fast approaching, and it will happen first in the metaverse. This is the reason that right now we are so committed to the metaverse, and the fact that now is the time, because the singularity will happen here first. And the reason for that is because Singularity can actually speed up metaverse time. So our ability to actually learn, learn a week's worth or a year's worth within the period of a day. You can put your own Omniverse avatar into 10 times speed, go to sleep for the night, and when you've woken up, it's already basically lived a week and figured out a week's worth of activity for you. Right now, this is exactly how Elon Musk is training his Tesla cars. You heard what I said earlier about the whole idea of Omniverse, which means that it can actually accelerate time and people can be learning. The robots at BMW are learning through years and years of trial and error in a matter of days. And so because this is all happening in the metaverse, because metaverse can be at a different time frame from our real life analog time, this can shift everything. You mentioned GPT-3. So what's happened with GPT-3 and NVIDIA in the last year? Well, just 2 weeks ago, Jensen came up with this thing here, which I'm going to share with you. On the one hand, it's kind of cute. On the other hand, it's kind of scary. What he's done is he's basically linked, or his team has linked a mini Jensen. When I think about our genie and the idea of an AI genie, it's linked a mini Jensen into GPT-3, which means, and into the internet, which means it can answer any question on anything in real time. And here is it in action.
You're going to see speech understanding, natural language processing on the largest model ever trained, speech synthesis with my own voice, character animation, and beautiful ray trace graphics, all in real time. Toy Me was made with some amazing technologies that have become possible only recently, and barely so. I asked a few friends to ask this cute little guy some tough questions. Let's take a look.
Hi. Hello. Hello, Toy Jensen.
Hi, please ask me anything.
What are the greatest threats of climate change?
The greatest threats of climate change are the effects on human health, food security, water supplies, and the environment.
How do astronomers look for exoplanets?
Most exoplanets are found via the transit method. That was the case for the TRAPPIST-1 planets.
Tell me more about that method.
The transit method is when a planet passes in front of its star. The amount of light block tells astronomers the size of the planet. The duration of the transit tells astronomers the orbital period of the planet.
What telescopes use that method?
The Kepler Space Telescope used the transit method to find thousands of exoplanets.
I've heard about a satellite called TESS that is used to find planets. How does it work?
TESS is a space telescope that looks for transits.
What roles do proteins play in our cells?
And so it goes on. I mean, it's basically speaking in real time on pretty much anything that you want to ask it. It's like your most intelligent friend, just a mini version of it. And so I'm going to have a mini Roger going around, basically like kind of sharing everything. And everyone's going to be like listening to Roger more than the real Roger because he's going to know a whole bunch more. But the whole point is you can see that already is picking up natural language processing. That's what GPT-3 does. So it even knows when you're asking a follow-on question to a question, for example, and it knows what the context of that question is. And if you asked it to say, hey, can you say that in Japanese? It will say the same thing in Japanese. So the whole point here is that if you have every kid on the planet having a mini Jensen or a mini genie, right, that can actually answer anything anywhere, imagine what they could learn and what they'd be interested in learning. Imagine if you had your own mini me that was actually able to share with you anything in any way. And this is not 10 years away. This is happening right now today. This here, which is the Omniverse avatar, you can already go in and set your own up and link it to GPT-3. So this is what we're doing with our genie, is making sure that our genie gets as smart as this. And when you get into our 3D world, the vision is that you'll then have your own genie floating around with you. And that can take all your notes. It can be your PA. It can organize things for you, but it can also kind of come up with, it can be your super smart friend. And if you want to have multiple genies, you can do that as well and have one more like Einstein and have one more like Mother Teresa. And they'll have their own characters that actually are thinking from a particular context as you actually design and build them as well. So none of us are going to be on our own. We're all going to have our own squads of people that are going to be there advising us. And we're all going to be there basically as a sum of all our intelligences, as opposed to just getting stuck where we're at. And if you're like, oh, show me how to buy an NFT, show me which parcel of land I should be buying now, you don't have to figure all that out for yourself, because you're going to have your own mini AIs that are going to be doing this for you. But how quickly can we go from people choosing to have AIs which are positive to people choosing to have AIs which can be negative and can be doing negative things as well? And that is one of the biggest aspects and question marks in terms of how we go about evolving and keeping up with the speed at which hyperintelligence is coming our way. And one of the most important things is knowing that this is not just about how it shows up as an avatar, is how we are going to have the speed of AI creating the metaverse, because it's not just something in the metaverse, it's what will allow the metaverse to happen. I'm going to show you two examples of this, right? One example of this is from one of my favorite YouTubers, where he actually explains what's possible now with AI in many different areas. In this case, is how you can actually use it for deepfakes. Deepfakes is where you have a video which is changed and you can't tell which one was real and which one was faked. And this one, I'll just show you the first part so you can kind of see what is possible even now today.
Imagine that you are a film critic and you are recording a video review of a movie, but unfortunately, you are not the best kind of movie critic and you record it before watching the movie. But here's the problem. You don't really know if it's going to be any good. So you record this.
I'm going to give Hereditary a B-.
So far, so good. Nothing too crazy going on here. However, you go in, watch the movie, and it turns out to be amazing. So what do we do if we don't have time to re-record the video? Well, we grab this AI, type in the new text, and it will give us this.
I'm going to give Hereditary an A+.
Whoa, what just happened? What kind of black magic is this? This new deepfake generator AI, where we can type in anything we wish, and out comes a near perfect result. It synthesizes both the video and audio content for us. But we are not quite done yet. Something is missing. If the movie gets an A+, the gestures of the subject also have to reflect that this is a favorable review. So what do? Maybe add the smile there. Is that possible?
I'm going to give Hereditary an A+.
Oh yes, there we go. Amazing.
So that whole thing where any one of us can actually just redesign anything. When I'm doing YouTube video, I can just change some words and it's going to just change me to be saying those different elements. And the fact that we're going to see throughout all of, like, we're already seeing this all across the internet, that deepfakes actually make it very difficult to know what's real and what's fake. There is also one other part, which is the actual rendering. And this is a huge part of what the engines are doing, like Unity Engine and like Unreal Engine. They're using AI to be able to render at a speed that no individual person could actually ever do. So this is a perfect example of that, which is what happens when you take a video game and you use AI to then develop into this a very, very different picture, which is actually using AI to make it realistic. So let's just have a look at this and see what this looks like.
Scholars, this is 2-minute papers with Dr. Karol Zsolnai-Fehér. This paper is called Enhancing Photorealism Enhancement. Instance, GTA 5, which is an action game where the city we can play in was modeled after real places in California. Now, as we're living the advent of neural network-based learning algorithms, we have a ton of training data at our disposal on the internet. For instance, the Cityscapes dataset contains images and videos taken in 50 real cities, and it also contains annotations that describe which object is which. And the authors of this paper looked at this and had an absolutely insane idea. And the idea is, let's learn on the Cityscape dataset what cars, cities, and architecture looks like, and then take a piece of video footage from the game and translate it into a real movie. So basically something that is impossible. That is an insane idea. And when I read this paper, I thought that cannot possibly work in any case, but especially not given that the game takes place in California and the Cityscapes dataset contains mostly footage of German cities. How would a learning algorithm pull that off? There is no way this will work. Whoa! It renders the exact same place, the exact same cars, and the badges are still correct and still refer to real-world brands. And that's not even the best part. Look, the car paint materials are significantly more realistic, something that is really difficult to capture in a real-time rendering engine. Lots of realistic-looking specular highlights of something that feels like the real geometry of the car. Wow.
And so it goes on, where basically we already are at a point where AI can just make things photorealistic and then fully realistic off the back of the things that are on here. And this is where AI already is working, and we don't even realize that this is happening. But when this becomes the likes of mini Jensens, you can just see the fact that we already have the ability to access the entire internet, but it becomes more seamless when we're actually in the metaverse, as opposed to having to type with our hands on a keyboard. And that is the big shift with the metaverse. You can just talk in real time to your avatars and they can just talk back to you and give you whatever information that you're looking for in real time as well. Here's a piece of good news for you. The 193 countries that just adopted the first ever global agreement on the ethics of artificial intelligence, this just happened in the 25th of November, right? So we're talking very, very recent. Now, this doesn't ban killer robots, but it does at least say that there is now an ethics framework for what we should or shouldn't be allowed to do with AI, which is the very first step towards it. And so I'm watching that a lot because that's the biggest concern. Most of us that already can see what's going on with AI, most of us have, is not as AI is good or bad, but can bad humans use AI for bad things?